Welcome back to the Blue Collar Boxing Podcast, coming to you on the road. My name is Luke from Biloxi, as always. Look, we all know what happened over the weekend. Oleksandr Usyk defends his heavyweight championships with an 11th round knockout over Rico Verhoeven in front of the pyramids in Giza. Lots of controversy. Let's go ahead and get into it. Before I go on a rant about all the idiocy that's expressing itself on social media the last few days, look, I wanted to give it a couple days for me to actually sort of take in what I had seen, take in some of the after action, and give you my own analysis. First and foremost, before I get into this, Rico Verhoeven deserves all the credit in the world. He came in, he fought the fight that he could fight, the perfect fight that he could fight. He did very well. He did win rounds. He won more rounds than most people win against Usyk. He deserves credit from that. All right, enough of that. Let's get into the controversial stoppage in scoring. First, look, there are a lot of people out there. There's two distinct groups in boxing that criticize boxing on a regular basis. They are the casual boxing nihilists, okay, that know a little bit about boxing, were fans like 10 to 15 years ago, occasionally dip their toe into watching the sport, and they always have negative things to say no matter what happens. The other side are the MMA fanboys who think they know something about boxing, and both of these groups actively root for the sport to fail. That's what they want to happen, and that's the narrative that they see, and all they see are things that confirm that narrative to them, and they objectively ignore demonstrable facts that speak to the contrary of the narrative that they believe in. And I like to call it boxing derangement syndrome. These two groups of people, particularly the MMA community, have boxing derangement syndrome. No matter what, I guess they're jealous of how much money, the global appeal of boxing that MMA doesn't have, the fact that these MMA guys keep coming to boxing and losing. They forget all these facts and they actively root for the sport to fail. And it's infuriating. I had to turn off my Twitter notifications, stop looking at it, because there's just so much idiocy out there. Let's talk about the scoring, okay? Now, a lot's been made that they were going to rob Rico no matter what. Guys, if you had that fight 7-3, right, going into the 10th round, you have to understand something. People look at 7-3, right, 97-93. They look at 97-93 and they go, well, Rico's up 4 rounds. Guys, he's 2 rounds ahead of a draw. There were multiple swing rounds in this fight, especially round 3 and round 8. If you give both of those to Rico, you've got it 97-93. If you give both of those to Usyk, which the judges did, it's 95-95. Those rounds were coin flip close. It's not corrupt to give those rounds to the cleaner, more effective boxer instead of the mauler. Whether you did it or not, you can disagree with it, but you can't call it corruption. And I know the MMA mind, you guys can't do the math. You can't see through your boxing derangement syndrome to say, oh, wow, 97-93 and 95-95, a draw, those aren't 4 rounds off. They're 2. I know in MMA, you guys only have 3 rounds or sometimes 5. So over the course of a 10-round fight, the math gets a little deep for you. And you can't see through the fact that you can't do math and that you have boxing derangement syndrome to see that narrative. So scores at the end of the fight were 95-95 twice, 96-94 once in favor of Rico. All good scores, all within the acceptable range of scores, especially with the fact that there were at least 2, really 3 clear swing rounds that I circled on my card as going, those can go either way. Now, after that, you've got the 11th round. There's a knockdown in the 11th round. That's a 2-point round. I know that's hard for you because you don't really have that in MMA in the same way that you do boxing. They do have 10-8 rounds, but the parameter's a little bit different for how you score it. So you guys can't see past that either, right? Going into the 12th, Usyk was probably going to knock him down again, if not knock him out, which means he's going to clearly win the fight. It's not hard, but I know for you guys, it's just a little bit too much. All right, enough about the scoring. I thought the scores were fine. So what, right? Usyk finished it. Let's get into the 11th round and the stoppage, right? So Rico's exhausted. He's coming in with his head down because he's so afraid of the the left hooks from Usyk. He doesn't want to get hit with those. So Usyk adjusts and starts throwing uppercuts. He lands a beautiful right uppercut off a combination, and Rico goes face first through the ropes and almost out of the ring. Okay, face down is pretty bad in boxing. He loses his mouthpiece, whether he spits it out or not. It doesn't matter. I suspect that he probably didn't, although he'd done it once before in the fight. So he gets up, he beats the count, and he's actively lobbying the referee for more time. He's looking at the referee and doing this to advise him, hey, I've lost my mouthpiece. The Brits call it the gum shield. I've lost my gum shield. I need more time. I need more time. Can you imagine if Usyk had done that? And like, well, he knocked me down and my mouthpiece fell out and I need more time to recover. Imagine if he did that. Ariel Helwani would cause a riot on Twitter if that happened. Okay, Luke Thomas would lose his mind. Oh, the heavyweight champion of the world's asking for more time to recover because Rico knocked him down. Can you imagine if the time was split? And I'll link this video in the description. Teddy Atlas did an excellent analysis. Rico ended up with almost 30 more seconds to recover. You guys are mad about the fight getting stopped at the end of the round. He was walking around the ring like he owned the place. He staggers back to his corner. The ref could have stopped it then. And then I started to blame the corner man for this, but the corner man puts the mouth guard back into Rico's mouth and drops it. And I'm like, well, that's on the corner man, right? These guys ostensibly have been putting mouthpieces in his mouth for hundreds of times, right? How do you get that wrong? It wasn't him, it was Rico. Dropped it again, got another couple of seconds out of it, puts it back in his mouth. All right? So then the fight continues. Go back and watch some other angles of that fight. Rico took some awful shots, went limp against the ring post at one point, and the ref made a decision then to stop the fight. He didn't get in time to stop it, but he's like, I got to get over there and stop the fight. He goes around Usyk's back and gets in between him and stops the fight. All right? And you guys are calling this the worst stoppage in boxing history. You have no perspective. You have no historical perspective on boxing. All right, a lot of your criticisms are accurate, but not that. Anybody watch Rolly Romero and Barroso? That was 3 years ago, boxing history. What about Fabio Wardley and Joe Parker? I did an extensive video on that. The last 4 punches of Parker didn't even land. And I'm not even talking about on the gloves or something. They didn't even hit him. And the ref stopped it. Good old Howard Foster. So don't give me this crap about the worst stoppage in boxing history. It wasn't. Rico was done. Even Peter Fury, his trainer, said it after the fight that he may not have made it to the 12th, that he was done, he was gassed, he wasn't pacing himself. He said that, his own trainer. And again, demonstrable objective facts. And you in the MMA community and the casual boxing nihilist community, you guys ignore it and you just want to burn down the house because of your boxing derangement syndrome. It's incessant and it's just exhausting to watch it on social media. Now, look, did the ref get the clock a little wrong? Yeah, he made some mistakes with the clock. Absolutely. Could he have given Rico the chance to come out for the 12th? Of course he could have. But again, the bell. Guys, this also shows that you have no perspective on boxing. If you've been to multiple boxing matches and you've never once not heard the bell ring sitting ringside, you're a liar. It happens every time I go to a fight in a string of fights. I think the ref has stopped a fight for some reason, and it's actually that the bell is ringing. It's very common to not be able to hear the bell. It happens, okay? Did the ref make a mistake? Perhaps. Was it corrupt? No. Was it gross incompetence? No. It simply was not, okay? He should have called time when he gave Rico a chance to put the mouthpiece back in, and he didn't. And the timekeeper just made a judgment and called time, but it shred some seconds off the round that Usyk could have used to really get the stoppage, okay? He got over 25 seconds to recover, which is egregious in my opinion, all right? And he lobbied for that time with his grin asking to put the mouthpiece back in. And then you have a whole nother round. If anybody was robbed in this fight, it was Oleksandr Usyk, because he would have laid Rico out in the 12th, and then you guys would have created a whole nother narrative about, well, see, once again, an MMA fighter comes into boxing and does really good, so that just shows boxing sucks. Which that leads me to another point that I find hilarious in the MMA boxing derangement syndrome community. Y'all are adopting Rico as a mixed martial arts fighter. He's not. He's a kickboxer. I know he had one MMA fight, but that was just for whatever. He had one boxing match too. He's more of a boxer than he is an MMA fighter. But for some reason, the MMA community has to now adopt him. Oh, you're with us now. Well, you couldn't pay him enough to fight because he entertained offers from all the big ones over there, and y'all couldn't pay him. So this, he's, and all the MMA fanboys are, oh, Rico's with us. How stupid. How stupid. And then I keep hearing the narrative that McGregor did great against Floyd, who didn't train and was retired. Wow, he got knocked out. Ngannou beat Fury. No, he didn't. He won 3 rounds with a knockdown, and he lost the next 6 or 7. Clear, close win for Fury, whose training camp was shorter than Fury's warm-up in the dressing room prior to the fight. Lost to a fat, out-of-shape Tyson Fury. So what if you dropped him? He got up and he outboxed you for 6 rounds easily, almost with one hand. Then he'd get laid out Ngannou by Anthony Joshua, a win that hasn't aged well because Joshua hasn't done anything since then but knock out Jake Paul, right? And now you're adopting Rico, who also got knocked out. And you also forget all the MMA champions, former world champions, admittedly perhaps past their prime, who's Jake Paul is beaten pillar to post. He's not even a full-time professional boxer, and he's beating your MMA legends. I don't hear you guys ever cite that when you go lay off all the times MMA fighters have done well. Again, your boxing derangement syndrome prevents you from looking at something objectively because you actively root for the sport of boxing to fail every time. You don't even watch fights to watch fighters lose. You watch fights to watch boxing lose. And that brings me to my final point about how, well, this was about protecting the establishment, protecting Usyk, who's the moneymaker. Listen, Usyk is not the draw. He is a little bit now, but when he fought Anthony Joshua, most people didn't know who he was, unless you were a boxing, purist like me who had followed him at cruiserweight. Cruiserweight's one of the most obscure divisions in boxing right now, and it certainly was then. And he had to fight his way to get that shot against Joshua. That was in London. The next one was in Saudi. Then he fights Daniel Dubois, again, London. Then he fights Fury, Saudi, fights Fury again. He's not fighting. People aren't buying tickets or pay-per-views to watch Usyk. They're buying them to watch Fury, Joshua, and Dubois. Okay? This fight was a little bit different. I don't know how it did, but this was a different attraction. The best thing that could have happened to the heavyweight division in boxing is if Rico Verhoeven had won that fight. Because then you get massive mega fights with Anthony Joshua, with Tyson Fury, with maybe a rematch with Usyk, maybe some other massive, you get an MMA guy over there. I don't know, Ngannou in a boxing match. It would have been huge. So don't sit there and tell me this was to protect the establishment. Bullshit. The money in the sport would have been Rico winning. It would have been huge. Think about how huge it is now, and he got knocked out. All right. Rant over. I'm sick of it. It was not the best stoppage in the world, but it wasn't corrupt, and he was going to get laid out in the 12th anyway, and the scorecards were fine. Get over it. Go roll around in your BJJ gym and tell everybody how you would beat Usyk in a BJJ tournament. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.